ladies and gentlemen. Joe here from Paranormal Library. Today we have the second part of the interview with Jamie Corstorphine, who is of the Edinburgh Vaults, City of the Dead, as the company is known. He's going to be talking more in depth about particularly the Edinburgh Vaults. We had him on the show last year. We spoke mainly about the Mackenzie poltergeist, and we effectively ran out of time just as we were getting the ball rolling with the actual vaults themselves. Jamie.
Hey, there we go.
How are you, man? Doing? You good?
Yeah, good, yeah.
Yeah? Loving the COVID life?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely insane. I was saying just a moment ago that obviously this is the second time that you're being interviewed on the Paranormal Library.
Mm-hmm.
The first time,
yeah,
we went into a lot of detail about the Mackenzie poltergeist, who he was, what the supposed activity is, all the craziness surrounding that. And just as we were getting the ball rolling on the actual vaults themselves, we kind of ran out of time. Obviously we're going to go into more detail about the vaults and get the ball rolling in terms of that. So handing over to you, Jamie, first question really would be... the vaults themselves, for people who don't know, what exactly are they?
Edinburgh Vaults are basically... South Bridge in Edinburgh is a massive viaduct structure. It's held up by 19 massive archways, same as any other viaduct bridge. The only difference is these archways are concealed in between the tenements on either side, which make up Niddry Street, Blair Street, Commercial Court, which is no longer there anymore. That was destroyed by fire in 2002, and Niddry Street South. So these, if you imagine a straight line with 4 blocks at either side of it, pushing together, sandwiching it in, and these big massive arches were then floored, and corridors were ran down both sides with the intent to use them as workshops for the businesses that would hopefully take them on, who would join South Bridge when it was built as Edinburgh's first purposely built shopping street. Okay.
So obviously the vaults at some point were abandoned from a merchant's perspective. Anyway, what was the situation there?
Yeah. The bridge itself, it is a massive feat of engineering. It is an amazing feat of engineering. It took them just over 4 years to build the actual viaduct structure. It's slightly longer to build the tenements up on the sides of it, but we're Scottish and we're renowned for not wanting to spend money or save money where we can.
Yeah.
So basically, we did a thing called puddling clay. Puddling clay, when mixed with limestone mortar, it forms a barrier against water. The bridge vaults were, and the bridge itself was never waterproof.
Right.
So basically, it was deemed too expensive at the time.
Okay.
So as soon as the rainwater sits on the road, it seeps through the bricks and the stonework, and it drips into the vaults.
Okay.
It renders them useless for keeping stock in, for being workshops, for doing any kind of work in. They're pitch black and extremely damp.
Okay.
So it was failed from day one. Really, it wasn't fit for the purpose.
So you say obviously from day one they weren't fit for purpose, but was there a period of time where they were used to some degree, or was it just a flat out?
Yeah. It's very strange. The water that drips into South Bridge Vaults, it never. It's kind of like it's like, do you remember the game Kerplunk, where you'd have this plastic tower, you had straws in the marbles, you would pull out and they would fall down. It's kind of like that. The water will come down anyway. So a lot of the vaults at first they didn't leak, or they were quite manageable. You had people like blacksmiths and tanners and things like that. They could use the vaults perfectly fine for their line of work. Whereas people like the dressiers and haberdashery stuff, wine merchants, some wine merchants would have got away with it. It would have been all right as long as they were skipped and straw and things like that. Yeah, there was a long period. The first businesses abandoned the vaults around about sort of 1792. The bridge itself was finished up in about 1788.
Okay.
But 1792, they started moving out, with the last tenement not being built until 1796.
Okay.
So they were actually moving out the vaults before the last tenement went up.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So essentially, they'd given up before it was essentially finished. Okay.
Pretty much. It was either rip it all down,
Yeah.
which is, of course, is a huge, cost, which has already cost. I mean, the land that was sold off at the sides of the bridge after the closes were demolished to make room for it, it was the highest grossing land per square foot in Europe at the time.
Okay.
Because it was all new, it was all, for high society.
Yeah.
It was a connection to the high street of Edinburgh to open up the south side of the city. So it was sought after area.
So after it was essentially abandoned, what happened? Like would have been a period of time where it was just sitting empty, but obviously we all know just from history that people did start to move in. But over that period of when it was lying empty, how long was that period?
Well, that early, I mean, coming into the early 1800s, coming in the turn of the century, there was still some legitimate businesses using it. There's still records of some legitimate businesses using it. But coming into that, then it was a kind of illegal trade that took over first. The sort of, red light districts, if you wish. The gambling rooms, dens, the smoking dens. Whiskey Row is what the street, Nidri Street South in Edinburgh. It's nicknamed Whiskey Row. Okay. There was 9 distilleries, illegal distilleries, busted within an 8-year period in that street alone. So there was a lot of illegal distilling of alcohol going on. Anything that was deemed illegal above ground, it was perfectly legal within this labyrinth of underground tunnels and chambers. It was perfect for it. It was.
So it was essentially a breeding ground for the less desirable.
Absolutely, yeah. The police force at the time didn't go down. It was too dangerous. The only light source people had back then were, candles made of animal fat or fish oil lamps. Not an awful lot of smell. Sorry, not an awful lot of light, but a hell of a smell that they would give off. So, it wasn't even pleasant back then, but it was perfect for what they wanted it for. But even then, there wasn't enough people in Edinburgh breaking the law at any one time to fill it. There's over 3,000 separate chambers and vaulted chambers within the bridge itself, and the complete, structure of the place. It's a massive underground.
Okay. So after the legitimate businesses moved out, as we know, people did move in. So let's talk about the kinds of people, who were they, why were they choosing that area, what was it that attracted them to the vaults in terms of an abode or a home, so to speak.
Well, I mean, the Cowgate at that time, we're talking coming into sort of late 1790s. The Cowgate was already classed as a slum. It was the poorest of the poor in that whole area. The high society were up 37 feet above them on, South Bridge itself. Where down below it was full of street hawkers and, paupers and things like that. There was the poorest of the poor. So once the businesses started abandoning the vaults, the illegal trades of Edinburgh, they decide, well, why are we not using this vast space? It's perfect for us. And that's what they did. We had the illegal trade sort of taking over some of the vaults. I mean, there was never enough people in Edinburgh breaking the law at any one time to fill the vaults themselves. I mean, it's that vast. There's so many chambers, up to 3,000 chambers, separate chambers on 4 different levels at some point. It is a massive, massive labyrinth. So illegal trades, you'd have obviously prostitution, the red lights, you'd have legal bars, drinking establishment. You'd have gambling dens, opium dens. The main thing was illegal distilling. Okay. Our vault situated on Nidri Street South. Now, that street has been nicknamed Whiskey Row just through time. In some literature as well, it's mentioned as Whiskey Row. There was 8 illegal distilleries busted in that one street alone, built with the vaults over a 9-year period by H&M Customs. They kept getting busted for illegal distilling, but it was safer to drink alcohol back then. From water from wells and things like that. It was a lot safer. It had been distilled. I think that's one of the things the Scots like to keep as a tradition.
Okay. Okay. So obviously there are many reports that come from the vaults, more from the sort of paranormal perspective. In terms of the activity that people are claiming and reporting, from your own two ears, Jamie, what have you heard personally?
Here, I spent a lot of time in the vaults, our section of vaults. I maintain the vaults for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I there's a few times a year I'll go in overnight and I'll spend overnight painting and things like that.
Right.
It's the only time to do it. I know every single sound in that place.
Okay.
I know every single sound that should be there, what is making that sound, and roughly where it's coming from, just from spending, over 11 years in the vaults.
Sure.
You get to know it better than your own house. It's the noises I don't recognise.
Okay.
That's the one that get me a little bit freaky. It's hard to do that sometimes during the day. You've got a lot of traffic noise. Although in our top vaults, the road space is only about 9 feet above our heads when we're in the top. But even then, you can't hear the traffic. Thousands of cars go across it every day, and you can't. But you can hear the odd person walk if they've got heels on.
Okay.
Kind of echoes slightly too. But at 3 o'clock in the morning is that's when the sounds sort of change.
Okay.
The second last time I was doing an overnight was the only really time I've definitely heard something that I cannot explain. And it did kind of freak me out. And I did actually finish up and go home after that.
Okay.
I didn't actually go to the I was painting away, and I was near the front door where the entrance is, painting a doorway. And I heard, it was distinctively children laughing. It was children.
Okay.
There's no two ways about it. Like children, it was children. So I thought, outside in the street, there's holiday flats, Airbnbs and things like that against the vault. But maybe there's a family checking in late. It's 3:10 in the morning. It's like, kids outside. I was like, well, because I'm a smoker, I thought, well, I'll go outside for a cigarette anyway.
Yeah.
Have a break. Got outside, no, not a single person around. Okay. No lights on, nothing. It was a Wednesday night, so there wasn't any street parties, or there wasn't people in the street as there usually is at weekends. I've got no idea what that was, but it was definitely children laughing.
Yeah. Is that something, Jamie, that has been reported from the vaults?
We've had reports from I think it's 5 different mediums that have been on the tours or in a private sort of investigation thing.
Yeah.
They picked up on children before. There was 3 of the 5 picked up on 2 children together, both giving very, very, very similar details to the children that they felt, which was interesting from my perspective as well to listen to. And because these 2 people don't know each other, they've got no time to collaborate stories and stuff that we don't make public. So they're either really good or, so that was interesting to bring them up. But, in my job, you do get a certain skin to it, if you thought about it too much, you just probably wouldn't end up going back in.
Yeah, understandable. And where would you stand in terms of the paranormal itself? Would you be a believer? Would you be skeptical? Would you be a complete non-believer? Where would you stand?
I think in a job like I do, it's kind of hard to be a non-believer.
Sure.
Although I'm a bit as psychic as a fire extinguisher.
Okay, me too.
I don't. So when I do feel something or experience something, that is, that's something that makes me think.
Okay.
But because I can't see ghosts doesn't mean they don't exist. And I've seen a lot of strange things happen to people that I know is not human interaction. So there's something there.
Okay.
But what it is, I don't know, but there's something there that's not human.
Okay.
Very much like Mackenzie.
Aye, I was just about to say that kind of goes full circle to what we were talking about Mackenzie the last time we spoke, about the fact that you can't be certain what it is. You can't see what it is, but there's definitely something going on. In terms of the vaults, to obviously bring it back, and obviously with your experience with the sounds of the laughter of children, at some point, would there have been families with children living or residing at some point in the vaults?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't until after the 1820s period, the vaults had gone through the sort of change of the illegal trades, and there was just, it was getting used as doss houses. It was getting used as very numerous things. But that's when, you know, we'd have the immigration coming from Ireland and the Highlands. We have a lot of, you know, because of economical and geological changes.
Sure.
That they had to, you know, try and find work, try and find different life. So yeah, you would have a lot of children.
Okay.
You know, and coming with families. Yes.
Okay. In terms of obviously when the tours are happening in the vaults, Jamie, what experiences are people reporting whilst they're actually on the tour? Have there been many reports?
I mean, obviously not as vast as the Mackenzie Vault, but we find there's a very similar, you know, very similar events to people than we do. Not quite as, you can't really say it's violent because it's not really, you know, although it's scratches and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not as often, but it's still there. But a lot of people in the vaults, it's the feelings they get.
Okay.
We do have a lot of walkouts in the vaults, as in the complete out colds. More of them in the vaults than there is in the graveyard.
Okay.
So it's very, very different. Very similar, but very, very different.
Okay. So in terms of intensity and frequency, there's a bit of a variation there. Okay.
Yeah, but it's mainly, I mean, even people who are not susceptible usually to things, they could be easily freaked out because they're seeing shadows and they're hearing things that they don't, you know, normally hear. So they are quite open to it.
Yeah.
Again, does that come down to being pheromone, you know, because of the pheromones released during that heightened period of, you know, anxiety?
Yeah.
You know, everybody's on. Does that create something?
Yeah.
You know, again, I don't see how that could create burns and scratch marks on people.
Yeah, this was the thing, because obviously I've done my research on the reports coming from the vaults as well as the history, and obviously whilst I'm reading these things, I do try to keep in mind that while the fight or flight factor will come into play in terms of, you know, heightened senses because you're on the defensive. But then you start getting into the things like, as you say, Jamie, burns and scratches and physical. I don't want to use the word harm because it's probably a bit too dramatic, but there's that physical interaction. Your brain isn't doing that, you know, so it certainly warrants more research if that was something that we were very keen to get an answer to, which I personally, as a paranormal investigator, would love to spend a night in the vaults, I'll be honest with you. But obviously I know the logistics of that are probably more complicated than what I'm thinking they are. So in terms of City of the Dead, obviously you're working the vaults day in, day out, or at least you were until this whole lockdown situation. What are staff's interactions with let's just call them entities? What are staff of your tour group reporting?
I mean, a lot of them report the knockouts, obviously, or the drop downs. You know, a lot of them. That's, like I said, that's the most common one. But again, I mean, a lot of people don't realise that they've been interacted with by something until later, like when they're in the pub or they're coming out the shower later. You know, because a lot of the time it's not painful. You know, a lot of people don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Some people say they get burning sensation. Some other people say that it's like a coldness. Most people that have been interacted with on my tours over the years into the vaults, they report most of the time anyway, but maybe 7 out of 10 times, that it's coldness. It's like a pins and needles tingling sensation wherever about on their body, their back, their head, the side of the head, back of the hand, the front of the hand. They say it's really, really tingly cold, like somebody's got a bit of ice really close, and that's a sign. We found that going through the reports anyway. That's something that, you know, does come up quite a few times. So you got to take that and put that into the documentation as well.
Well, that's interesting you say that, Jamie. So in terms of the accounts that people are claiming and reporting, do you essentially keep a log of those things?
I mean, City of the Dead tours was set up originally in 1999 to document the Mackenzie poltergeist by Jan. He wanted to, you know, document it for research for the book, which he released, and we're still documenting it. Yeah, many years later, being the most documented paranormal case in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this
so
is,
we're used to it. Yeah.
A lot of what you just said there about the delay in realizing what has happened is something that I was finding a lot in the research I was doing. Again, the ice cold sensation of like something's happening, something isn't right, but then it's an hour later or so that they realize like, oh, actually no, something is really wrong, and then they look and they have scratches or a burn mark or whatever the case may be. Because you spend so much time in the vaults, Jamie, if you were sort of cornered and asked the question, what do you think this is? If you had to put, let's go with a logical explanation first of all, or a most likely explanation. Do you think we're dealing with the spirits of the people who resided there? Is it something completely unrelated that's decided to kind of move in? What are your thoughts on it?
I've never really thought about it. I mean, the only thing I kind of know, I mean, it's not a poltergeist.
Sure.
Very much I think like I said about, a standard poltergeist. If you look at every case of poltergeist history, back to the Bell Witch in 1888, Wisconsin, USA, right up to Enfield, Borley Rectory, right up to San Paulo, the one in Japan, even Amityville, although it was fake, they all had the same thing. The movie Poltergeist, they had the one thing, an epicenter.
Yeah.
One person feeds off.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't have that. So
Sure.
unless this is one and only poltergeist in the history of the world that doesn't have one, then it's a poltergeist.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a collective amount of energy,
Okay.
from past events, or maybe it's taken something to trigger something, but that wouldn't account for actual interactions with people,
Sure.
like this tape theory, which we slightly discussed last time. I don't. That couldn't cause. I mean, that's mainly the thing for apparitions. You see the figure float. That can't interact. So
Sure.
what is causing this to interact, and what is that? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Jan has called it the entity. It's an entity of some description.
Yeah.
And a few mediums have actually used that word as well.
Sure.
It's an entity of some form, but what it is or what's causing it is yet to be. I just don't think we have science available to us today to actually figure that out.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jamie. It's funny actually that you started talking about the sort of residual stone tape theory side of things versus the intelligence side, because Lynn Gregg has just asked whilst we're live. Are there negative entities, or is it more of a residual energy? And as you just explained very clearly, that a residual haunting, shall we say, wouldn't account for the activity and the interactions that people are reporting.
Yeah.
And you saying as well about the whole science that we're not there yet. We're not there yet. I am a big believer that one day science will be able to explain these things, whether it's that it's all in your head, whatever the case may be, or no, these things are real, and this is the mechanics behind it that allow it to happen. So I agree with you 100% that we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So the vaults themselves, I was very surprised when I first heard about the Edinburgh Vaults that the discovery of the vaults is actually more recent than people would think.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What how did that come about?
Well, that was Norrie Rowan, ex-international rugby player with Scotland. He had the pub, the Tron pub at that time. He owned it back in about 1985, I think it was. And he discovered a doorway behind the cellar wall. And of course, if you find a doorway on your property, what do you want to do? You're going to open it. So that was it. And I mean, a lot of people say over time. I mean, a lot of people say that the vaults were forgotten about. That's not the case at all. Everybody knew they were there.
Yeah.
All the way right up. I mean, through the 70s, Blair Street vaults were never sealed. It's Mercator's vaults. I mean, Blair Street vaults, a lot of people remember going in there for band rehearsals when they were in bands in the 1970s. They used to have rehearsals there. Bannerman's bars always had the vaults behind them. They've always been used. And you've also, what else we got? The Banshee Labyrinth is always used. So, the vaults were never forgotten about.
Okay.
It was just certain vaults were still sectioned off.
Okay.
Blair Street was also an air raid shelter in the Second World War.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So, it's encased in 75 feet of concrete. You're perfectly safe down there.
Well, yeah, unless you would be.
Even COVID, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's worse things than that in there. Yeah.
Here's a good question that's just popped up. Jamie, from Zoe Loves Horror. How many more vaults do you think are still hidden away?
I mean, I think because of obviously planning, because of all the stuff that's been going on, the new buildings, the fire destroyed a lot of them as well in 2002. But all the reworkings of bars and internals, it's pretty much all been opened. There is a couple that I know of, that Norrie still got that are not used. They're just away, but they can be used for whatever reasons. But that's at least 5 I know of that's not available to the public, and the public doesn't see them. So I'd say of 100%, I'd say about 97% of the vaults have been uncovered, or what we know about. Whether they're being used or not is different. Because I know a couple of, like there are storerooms now for rooms or something like that, or they've been sectioned off into flats.
Sure.
There's a lot of it, obviously, commercial use.
Okay. So for like you say, 90, the majority of the vaults have probably been discovered and opened up.
I don't think there's definitely no big vaults left. All the big vaults have completely gone with it. That with the gradient at the bridge anyway, the way it goes up and down.
Yeah.
All the main ones have been uncovered and are being used. Very rarely you'll get a big vault, a big chamber, a big archway that's not being used for something. Bannerman's is on one side. You've got the caves and the Roundtree venues on the other side of the road. And all above them is being used as well. You've got the shops up above on bridge level using the below 1 or basement 1, basement 2.
Yeah. And
then you've got, AA is the ground section using architect drawings and stuff like that. That's vault level.
That's interesting.
But there is one section that I think Zoe might be talking about. There's a section, again, it's not available to the public. It's behind a set of toilets in the caves venue. Now, behind that is being used as a storeroom, but it's called the well room. Norrie called it the well room because it looks like there's a well in it. There's a big area that he almost fell through when he first discovered it. So he built a wall up around it, and it looks like a well. Like you look into a well, drop a penny down, and there is water in it. But every so often, it does drain. It wasn't until about two years ago now, I was looking at it one day, just standing with a torch, and sent my phone down. There's 2 archways in the wall looking down that we didn't notice from that angle. People don't put archways in wells.
No.
That corridor, there's a corridor, and that is about 25 feet below Cowgate level. We've never been there. We don't know what's down there. Corridor of some description. Edinburgh City Council archaeologists and stuff, they wrote it off as a well. They never investigated it due to safety concerns. So it was just written off as a well. But no, it's definitely not a well. It's definitely a corridors, and there's 3 corridors that we've sent a GoPro down and things like that. But we need to get suited up to go venture. Norrie's not up, so I'm the mug that
you're on your own, Jamie.
It's uncharted ground. This is 30 feet below Cowgate level. This could be pre-bridge. To see down there. So it's fascinating, but the conditions have to be right, and we've got to get the proper suited and stuff like that properly.
Oh, that's like really exciting stuff, actually. Hold fire on that, Jamie, because I'm going to get the first plane over, man, because that would be amazing.
I'll send you some pictures of it.
Yeah, definitely do, man, because because it's so rare in like this modern age where you find something that hasn't been seen before, and then here's Jamie like, oh no, that's not what you think it is.
It's like you could clearly see there's 2 archways. You don't build archways in the wells.
Of course not.
What I think it could be, I'm not 100% sure. What I think it could be is it could be the chamber. The foundation of the South Bridge was laid in 1785 on the south side of the Cowgate Arch, which is underneath, basically in between what was the Gilded Balloon Festival venue and the Rowan Tree venue. And this corridor runs actually parallel to that. Now, the foundation stone was laid there by the Lord Provost, and also the Grand Master of Masons of Scotland, Lord Hadfield, at the time. And it's got 24 gold coins in the foundation stone. And it's got the inscription on it and things like that. So I thinking that could be the corridor to the foundation stone, where it is. I'm not entirely sure if we're allowed to remove it. After look. Can we edit that?
I can do, mate. Don't worry. But no, that's really exciting stuff. That there is this thing, this section of the vaults that you know is there, but you've not had the opportunity to actually literally rappel down and you know, have a look around, see what's there. That's really interesting stuff. So I suppose we have to talk about this, as depressing as it may sound. Obviously, everywhere's been hit with this coronavirus and the lockdown that has ensued because of it. Probably a bit of an obvious question, Jamie, but how has that affected City of the Dead?
Well, we stopped doing tours just after the 20th of March.
Okay.
Obviously, just for everybody's safety, our guide safety as well as customer safety. So we stopped tours, and we're just waiting. We're us as guides, we're all self-employed anyway. So, but the company, we've just got to wait, and just hopefully restrict. I mean, even so much as come back with doing small group tours at first. Maybe 10 people max. Because I mean, we have got the vast area. We've got sole access to the Covenanters prison and our vaults. And our vaults I've been in a couple of times during lockdown, just cleaning the place up, repainting staircases, sanitizing everything, blasting everything. Perfect time to do it. It gives it fresh as well.
Sure.
As fresh as it can.
Fresh.
Fresh. So, there is stuff that we could do, but it's not easy at all. This is banging our tourist time now. We should be running 6 tours a night, with up to 30 people on each tour. This is crazy. It's having a massive, massive effect on it, not just us, but any walking tour company.
Sure. It's a worldwide thing. I saw on the news a couple of weeks back that Sicily, are so desperate to sort of get their tourist industry going again, that not only do they pay half of your flight and accommodation, I think it was, I could be wrong, they pay a big bulk of the actual cost of the holiday, but then all of their tourist attractions are free, just to get people, once this lockdown is lifted, they're trying to get people in.
Especially tomorrow.
Here's a very good question, which actually I was going to ask myself, Jamie. This is from Rebecca, who is a friend of mine. What about subscriber virtual tours?
Exactly, yeah. It's something that I am working on at the moment.
Sweet.
It was an idea that came from one of the Facebook groups, Professional Ghost Guide Tours. They had the idea of doing the Zoom meeting, and doing it as a virtual tour, doing it with visual, which is great for some aspects. It's fantastic. I mean, when I do a tour, I sometimes, if I've got the time, and I'll do that version, I'll use a projector to project images on the vault's wall. Because visual is better to imagine, or to even see what I'm explaining is so better. So I've always wanted to do more visual things, but at the moment, I am trying to set up a virtual. That's difficult because you can't. There's no way we could do one of our tours in this situation. Not a chance. We've got our locations, and each location, the vaults and the graveyard. To do that, it's impossible to do it without being there.
Sure.
So it'll need to be kind of a different thing, but it will be City of the Dead tours. All the guides with us are different anyway, because we're not scripted. Every guide is different. So we research everything, and we tell you, basically, we as guides talk to you, rather than just a story from a book, which is great, but we do it in our own way, so it's very difficult to put that across on a phone setting.
this
You
kind
have
of
to
format,
be
yeah,
live. So
Also,
trying to
as
set
well,
the right thing up, yeah, it is in the process. The sooner the better, really, to try it out and get up and running.
I suppose
So
one of the
yeah,
main issues you would have as well, Jamie, from the offset would be if you're going that deep underground and you need a web connection.
no, it's not going to work.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
absolutely.
But
No.
it's something that you're working on, which is interesting. Because as well, if you're stirring up interest now, once all of this lockdown is lifted and things are back to quote unquote normal, hopefully it will have that knock on effect where people are like, okay, I've seen this on my PC, I want to actually go and see this in person.
And I'm also looking at it like it's for people who, because obviously we've got a lot of people in the States and things like that, or further afield who would love to do a tour. And they read about them, but they'll probably never get the chance to do it.
Sure.
Because they're maybe never going to be in Edinburgh. So it's good for them as well that they can actually experience something, from the company, which I think long term it could be used throughout, not just this period.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, we're all part of history.
Yeah.
This history is being made right now. This is going to be written about, so we've got to look at it that way. I mean, it's not all the time, and you can be, say that you're being serious, historical.
Yeah, I was here at this time, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As destroying as it is, and as crazy as it is, and everybody's dying to get back outside, and it's just we just got to take it as it comes.
Yeah. Zoe has just given City of the Dead a really good shout out. Jamie says the City of the Dead tour guides are the best around. Been on the tours a few times and they're fantastic. So
yeah, Peter. Yeah.
That's good. But so in terms of the vaults, we've covered the history of what they were used for, why they were abandoned, what happened after the initial abandonment, the activity that's come out of it. In terms of the future of City of the Dead, obviously we spoke about virtual tours already. Where can people get more information on what you're doing, what you're planning on doing, etc.?
Just through the website. It'll be www.cityofthedeadtours.com, or just keep up to date with our social media, things like that. Everything will be, updated as and when we get it. And as soon as we hear that we are able and allowed to do tours again, we will be back up and running within a day. We're just ready to go. We'll be hopefully get back to normal. Obviously, with the festival being cancelled this year as well, in Edinburgh. This is going to be a new experience for us. I mean, we've worked through, obviously, we've been running this company for 20 years now. So we've seen many festivals. And this is the year during August that there won't be one. But people still obviously want to travel. They want to get away. And we're kind of hoping to do.
Yeah.
If we're all lifted up by that time, then yeah, absolutely. And it could be beneficial for us and other walking tour companies.
Yeah.
To help us after this, unprecedented
weird time,
hit that we've all taken.
Yeah. Jamie, I'm going to let you go, mate. That was absolutely superb. We covered so much in what feels like little time. I don't even know how long we've been talking, but we've covered absolutely everything that I wanted to cover. So anyone who's listening now or in the future when I put this on YouTube, check out the City of the Dead website. I'll put a link to it under the description. And Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, mate. And as soon as I'm able and I'm in Edinburgh, I'll look you up and we'll have a chat.
Show you the well room, yeah.
Yes, mate. Yeah, I'll bring ropes and everything. a little lamp, But that going back to that though, I know obviously I wasn't there when you were sort of first discovered it, but my excitement levels went way up when you were talking about it, because it's like this is something new. This is amazing.
Totally new, especially after studying the bridge for so long, and researching it and thinking, well, I'm never going to have access to, anything new. It's all been, thinking that anything that's left is not worth seeing. It's just a mess. So then looking at this and going, just staring down into the water, and I'm going, that wall's not right. That's not. It's just filled with rubble. Yeah. I mean, that's how the vaults were built. That's how they were sealed up. is it was all the buildings that were knocked down as part of the 1860 City Improvement Act. They basically landfilled the vaults to stop people using them. After then people moved in, the families and stuff. Unfortunately, cholera took a lot of them out.
Sure.
So the vaults were just seen as a dumping ground.
Yeah.
So the people then thought, right, we've got all this rubble. Usually we'll recycle it, but they weren't allowed this time. They had to build brand new tenements using brand new materials. So that's what they did. They just poured it into the South Bridge vaults through basically drilled holes in the pavement.
Yeah.
Just dropped the rubble.
Dumped, boom. Yeah.
Yeah. Just sealed it up.
Crazy.
So that was so to find this and then see that, it's like, wow, this is this is new. I'm looking forward.
Mate,
I can't wait.
Keep me up to date on that, because that will be good.
Will do.
Jamie, pleasure speaking to you, mate. You take it easy, and I'll be in touch. Take it easy, mate.
Speak to you.
Bye bye.
Cheers, bud.